You're listening to the Road to Wisdom podcast, weaving stories told by wonderful minds about all things motherhood, health, intimacy, politics, nature, and everything in between.
Join us on an adventure discovering unique experiences that we can learn from to enhance the ways in which we live.
We are your hosts, Chloe
and Keshia. Welcome, everyone, to the Road to Wisdom podcast. Today, we are honoured to be joined by Superfeast Mason Taylor. He is in the studio today with us to talk Taoist herbalism and I guess the philosophy that we can just go into in life. And we're going to let that go down a few different paths, but it's going to be a juicy conversation. So strap in.
Yeah.
Hopefully. So I guess one of the first things that we wanted to chat to you about, Mason, was what is Taoist herbalism?
Yeah, I mean, it's actually, I can really ramble on. I'm going to make sure we do have lots of rabbit holes to go down. So to be really succinct, so over 2,000 years ago, you kind of get the formalization of what you can call Taoist tonic herbalism, even though back then it was just an integrated part of life. But that's before we'd seen the real mass colonization and commodification of Chinese medicine, where they cut the soul out. That happened incrementally as everyone as civilization blew up, they needed to take more of those parts of Chinese medicine out that had shamanic roots, because the population was growing and civilization was growing so fast, it was hard to just have that master-apprentice relationship where you ensured people actually had the capacity to perceive what the best treatment was through essentially a heart perception. So that slowly got scrapped up until its crescendo in the 50s, where Mao Zedong and communism came through and completely gutted Chinese medicine of all its essence and its soul, and put it into universities and turned it into a Western commodifiable, highly replicable product. And so if you track back to classical literature for herbs, comes from a 2,000-year-old text, a bit more than 2,000 years, called the Shendong Ben Sao Jing, so the Divine Farmer Materia Medica. And Shendong classified, and everyone who the thousands of years of thousands of millions of people and thousands of years that went into creating that classical text, they classified herbs in three layers: the inferior herbs, the lower ones that kind of like poisons you use for extreme symptomology. We love clinicians that use those, and the regular herbs, and those that could shift a state of the body. Likewise, in constitutions, you can only take them max maybe 2 months at a time before they actually start over doing some damage. And then there's the superior herbs, and the superior herbs were the ones to cultivate life. And so they'd say you take the superior herbs and you integrate them into your life long term, and you use them for the intention of not just prevention, but for becoming essentially an awesome old person. So they'd be like, this is take the Jing herbs to ensure that you don't age prematurely. And they just mean that if you age too prematurely, you get to the destiny of when it is time for your last breath, and you have shit knees, shit bones, can't replicate cells at all. So you've completely deteriorated before, so you haven't been able to share your wisdom. And to keep the body light is the other one, which is just called keeping the chi vital enough so you can continue to move the body, mobilize the body, move thoughts, transform things. That's the chi treasure, which we guard in the body. First was the Jing treasure we guard in the body through these herbs. And then finally it was to ensure that the spirit is preserved and refined. And that's there's the Shen herbs, and you take the Shen herbs to help you maintain the connection to that part of you that's perhaps a little bit more infinite. And if you keep that intact and refined, it expresses itself as our refined personality, the way our mind works. And you can imagine if we haven't had a mind that's been completely dominated by external thoughts or institutions, and we refined ourselves into our unique expression, our personality is ours, not just some homogenous bullshit replication that, say, people are using right now within spiritual dogma and wellness dogma, going, look how interesting I am. I speak the exact same as everyone else in this little clique, but you guys in modernity, you haven't heard of that little clique, so I seem interesting to you. That's the thing that that's a Shen suppressant. Likewise, people right now don't know how to think for themselves. We've just seen that, on like roids. For the,
Yeah, what are you talking about? People not thinking about them for themselves.
I think everyone's a critical thinker.
Oh, absolutely. I love how everyone just chose their own medical path during the pandemic. It was like really inspiring.
It was well thought out. It's really
so empowering.
So we saw the Shen is always there, but they weren't actually able to land it. There was too much that had been hijacked in their mind, and they weren't able to touch that part, that infinite part of themselves. And likewise, they didn't have the blood. Just a lot of people, the Shen is always there, but the Shen, the spirit, that essential part of ourselves that has the natural expression of virtue of like love and gratitude and boundaries and all those kinds of beautiful things that should emerge naturally. And when we're like, hey, I'm wise as fuck, I'm feeling really wise right now. That's often, an emergence of creating a strong bond and boundary, that when it just emerges, when you're not mentally going, I need to stand up for myself and have a boundary. You're like, oh, there's the actual appropriate boundary. Oh my God, that feels so good. That's a virtuous expression that happens because the Shen from the heart is infused into the blood. We don't have enough blood. You can't infuse the Shen into the entirety of your body. And so your Shen can get hijacked by someone else's narrative. And so 2,000 years ago, that text comes through and says, these are the superior herbs, that all of those practices that go with you, there's a couple of layers of it. The first path of Taoism is just being a good person.
That's a nice one. We should all embody that.
Yeah, it's amazing how many people aren't even on that path, It's who are like,
good person.
You know what? I'm really trying to be like a good person in my community, and that's there through, through all the further as you go further down the path. But that's the first time these tonic herbs become relevant, right? Really, the path. So a lot of people are just trying to treat symptoms, but that's where the herbs are a gateway. Likewise, any cultivation practice like yoga and qigong and meditation, they can be gateways for people who are trying to fix something, who are trapped in a narrative from the media or modernity. They'll get on to say tonic herbs to, Jing herbs in order to, because they're just exhausted and they're sick of being exhausted, or they're, one of the best ones is the menopause symptoms, watching like these women who just like, I've had women who are like nearly suicidal come up to me crying at events because they're like, I don't know what this is. I don't know what you just said. I don't know what you're talking about. But I was at that point where I didn't know what I was going to do. And I've took Jing herbs, and now I did it because I didn't want to be exhausted. And now I'm feeling things, and I want to know what's beyond the veil of just fixing shit that's wrong with me. That's tonic herbalism. Now, of course, that woman was trying to be a good person, but that's the first path, cultivating virtue. And then from the next layer of I guess the path of the Tao is people, that's one you want to move through as fast as possible, is people who align with deities and believe that they were created by something and something is controlled. That's the trap in Taoism. And the next is connecting with pre-heavenly chi, so primordial source of the universe, and perhaps that part of you that is beyond the universe. And that's where you connect with that part of yourself that was never created. And as you align with that, with that space, you go through the descension rather than the ascension model. That's what Taoist tonic herbalism leads to, supporting people descending down into the essence of themselves and embodying whatever, heavenly chi on the earth, their unique essence on the earth, and seeing what unique portals of expression that opens up within this life that we're creating. And so the tonic herbs come from that text 2,000 years ago. They go, these are the superior ones that support that path.
That's so, like, as you were talking about that, I just felt like tonic herbalism and pregnancy are the same thing.
Everything's the same thing as pregnancy right now.
Everything. I could just relate it all back to pregnancy. But seriously, you like go through those phases through pregnancy and then through labor and birth, and then you come back and descend. It's great. Same little, I just relate everything back to pregnancy.
Well, and I mean, I think because like something like tonic herbalism isn't the path itself, it's like an ally on the path. And that's the most significant process that you're in right now. And therefore these things like a movement practice or a meditative practice or a tonic herb practice, it's not I just need to be a tick, 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 and I'm going to be a good person, I'm going to be healthy, and then here's my pregnancy over there. When you're embodied, the context is, everything is there supporting what you're going through. So I can imagine that's like tonic herbalism in the context of like, how does it support you through what, that process you're both in
but
at
I
the
think
moment.
Even the theory of Taoism, it's like, that stepping up to, that certain point, and then I would label it spirituality or being it or knowing what part of you, as you said, is source. And you kind of go there. It's like the only time I'm ever spiritual ever is pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. And then I just like snap right back into this physical life. But it's
But because it's not commodified birth, that's, you know what I mean? Like so many people, this is like, and even if you're in, you know, whether you're in like modern medicine or, you know, whether you have, or even doesn't matter whether you're in a hospital system or, you know, doing a complete in the forest free birth. It doesn't actually matter. You can see there are those people who are like, I'm not willing to step outside of anything at all, that, you know, like, and then there's those who are like, I'm going to engage just a smidge. And when I say that path of like, when you're like, oh, I just want to be the best person for my community, it means that person who's engaged in they're questioning, they're engaged a little bit with the creation of their own life and their own expression. They might, you know, so they might not be fully in there. So when you talk about birth, and that's the only time you're spiritual, is because you're in a path that, okay, let's just use the trendy sovereign, you know, the word of like sovereignty, or, you know, like non-commodified.
Go for it, yeah.
And non-homogenized like birth, where you're actually allowed to feel things and you're actually allowed to experience shit. You'll go through it. And because you weren't drugged to the max and, you know, fake hormone to the, you know, oxytocin to the max, and you're actually allowed to have skin contact, like, you know, the biological transformation cycle of your psyche and the embodiment of wisdom is like, that'll never be taken away ever, which is what everyone's scared of the most. Everyone's scared of like metamorphosis more than anything, because everyone's so comfortable where they are. And that's why it is exactly the same path, because this is the path of having enough essence and having enough jing and having enough mental fortitude to walk through the eye of the needle when those things are coming about. And I like that, you know, when you're like, that's my major spiritual practice. And so good. I fucking can't handle people that think they're spiritual because they act spiritual all the time. And then when it comes to like...
Or they do enough ayahuasca.
Oh, well, those people are different. They're like, you know, the more ayahuasca equals more spiritual. Like 100%. There's no loop.
Go deeper.
There's actually no hijacking of the entire essence, or what we call the liver hun gets hijacked when you take up. So the liver hun is the spirit of the liver wood more specifically, that can break away from the body and go traveling through the universe when you're asleep especially, and download the vision of where you're going. And so you get a sense of what the plan is that is going to take you towards your destiny with a song and a dance and in the most graceful manner, and comes back, and that's the part of you that organizes like a general of an army, you know, as well, and like an artist. It goes, right, taking stock of everything that I have and the vision that I have for my life, and, you know, and for our life and the world, and what I've got and the capacity I have, what I got to just take stock completely. Let's go in this direction. And then you go off. Now, you need that liver hun connected to you, because your liver hun wants to speak to your first, the empress and emperor of the heart fire, which is the Shen. Go through, is this feeling good? Is this feeling like we're going in the right direction? But then the spleen yi, which is the intellect and the grounding to be like, are we actually manifesting something, or are we just like jerking ourselves off here? Or, you know, am I just like blowing smoke up my own ass? And that's what happens when you take heaps of ayahuasca and you get, it's not even the ayahuasca, it's the cult of, you know, and it happens a lot. I mean, it happens within indigenous settings, but especially happens when the Westerners get like real happy with, you know, with
trigger friendly,
with taking little, you know, they'll just go, I like that bit of the path. I don't like the part where you live in a tribe where everyone is mirroring you at all times. So they can tell you when you're being an asshole, and they can tell you when you've got this massive ego. I'm just going to go to LA and start serving in my lounge. I'm only surround myself with people who are like, you are so amazing and brave. And anyone who is like, I don't think you should be doing this, be like, don't you listen to that negativity. You are such amazing. You're a curandero. Like, you know, like, and so what happens is it's not even the plant itself, but it's like the
psyche behind it.
It's a non-rooted lineage, and the mannerisms and the psyche, you know, it's another hive mind that infiltrates and takes over that liver hun. And that's why these people are really good at talking vision. I've been one of them, in case you haven't reckoned. And it's a really tough day when you've built up an identity, especially these days when you're when you get onto cameras and you share with everyone, this is my personal brand and this is who I am now, and listen to how wise I am, and you say the wisest things, and then at some point you're sitting there at night listening to yourself talk, and you're or you're in the shower, and you can, and all the objections that you think, these are all the objections other people have that are challenging me, but you don't realize it's your subconscious objection and your spirit's objection telling you how full of shit you are, and the fact that you are never going to manifest any of this, and you only surround yourself with the people that are telling you you're doing a good job, because they also don't have the spleen capacity to actually tell yourself you can't do this. You don't have the skills to do this, and you're not on a path where you're going to build the skills. You're just like blindsiding yourself and saying, as long as I keep on going and helping other people get on the medicine and opening other people to this realm, I'll be good and I'll be satisfied. And you won't be. You got to listen to those voices in the shower when you start criticizing yourself. It's really great. It's not other people, it's you. So it's like, yeah, I don't know how we got on to talking about that.
But while we're there, I think a lot of it is, if you're trying to avoid other people criticizing you, like, it's because you're just not ready to face it yet. Like there's a deeper part of you that's just like, I feel it. Like they're just mirroring me, but I don't want to face it yet. What I want is just affirmation, validation. Yeah. So that's really interesting, because you can apply that to anything, but
I think, like you said as well, sorry to cut you off, but it's like people are petrified of the metamorphosis stage, and so and it's what I also want to speak with you about, is because I've also heard people say like, oh, I took the Jing, didn't do anything. I'm like, yeah, cool, because X doesn't always equal that. Like at some point you actually have to do something else. It's not just as easy as going to the bloody health food store and picking up the vitamin C and being like, this is it. I've taken action. Like this is it. This is going to equal never getting sick again, if that's what you believe. But there's obviously a whole spectrum around that. It's not just do ayahuasca and I'm going to be free. I'm going to be free. I'm going to be on my path.
I've had my realization. Mother ayahuasca spoke to me, and now it's complete. Like, yeah, there's an integration and an embodiment.
But obviously, like taking Jing or doing things like that is helpful, but it's not the full spectrum.
No, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, and I will also just share, like, I love ayahuasca, and I am just jealous of those curandeiros, and that's what I want to be when I grow up. So that's why I'm projecting right now. And likewise, what it's like I actually also acknowledge that it's shit getting getting feedback what you're doing when people actually don't know the context of why you're doing it. So in terms of having a tight community, though, but then when they call you out on your shit, like that's like when they can see it. That's like but in terms of looking for a solution, you got to work with that. I'm kind of accepting that at the moment in my own metamorphosis, because that shits me to tears when I'm just then like, I took Jing and it didn't do anything, and I'm like, yeah, well, of course you're maybe in a mentality where you've just you haven't. One, it's a TGA product, so we have to put a particular dosage on the label, because I'm learning to actually be in reality and know that I have to do those things. And so that person might be like, well, I can't go any higher than that because that's what the label says. But in Taoist Tonic Herbalism, sometimes it's, dose is everything. And in the classical text, we realize we've completely misinterpreted how much of a herb is necessary to not even overcome, because those people, they don't know what their intention is yet. They think it's for a symptom, or they think it's just like they're flat. They say they're a flat person. They're like, and I've just heard all these people say amazing things, and I guess I want to explore the amazing things. There's something in them is screaming for it. And then, but they're also cynical, which I understand, and cautious or whatever it is. And they're like, I took a little bit and nothing happened. And that's the person that needs to be. They're not looking for a symptom change. They don't know. They're looking for a constitution change. They're looking to work with something because they see transformation and metamorphosis, and they're super skeptical. But that's the thing they're wanting more than anything. And so, at that point, it's you're not gonna. This isn't gonna be the thing that's gonna fix you. But I've also realized, and a lot of the time, I do have an opportunity. I've got them there. They're trying something, and so I can try and be a linchpin moment and for them to see that if I can get such a shift out of them, And those moments, I often forget just how those pinnacle moments can completely transform the trajectory of your life. So like Jing isn't going to have that effect on me now, but 14 years ago, Jing completely radically shifted the perception that I have around my capacity to actually alter my body. I just thought I was on like a decline of energy, and it was like, yeah, that's fine. Like I'll do coffees and I'll do exercise, and exercise will make me feel energy. But there was like a stagnation of how much constitutional energy I had. And that was it. And I knew I'd get tired in the afternoons unless I really ripped into it. But taking Jing, I literally felt the essence go in. The first time I didn't have to do anything. I felt the essence go in, and I said, oh my God, there's my stamina. I can feel I'm cultivating stamina. I'm barefoot on the earth, kidney points on the earth. These Jing herbs have like opened up my kidney channel, and I could feel, I didn't even know it was water, but I could feel water, powerful, strong, like hot water and cold water. And I could feel that feeling now. I'm like it was just, at the time I was just like, there's like, I don't know, there's this dynamic going on in my lower back. And now I know what it is. I've made sense of it. Nothing anyone has ever said since that moment has ever been able to stop me understanding that I'm in control of my own cultivation. And I am not at the whim of modernity, statistics, society. Nothing's ever been able to get in there. And I've become a sovereign scallywag ever since. And that's at times I've taken it too far and taken it into a rage against the machine, thinking that that's the best way to, because this is such hidden wisdom. And now I've just accepted, my own metamorphosis of just like, it's 12 years into having Superfeast. And it was only like 6-7 years ago when it actually started doing stuff. And I actually had to have a real job. Those first 5 years, I was just kind of like, whatever, no business plan, And so I was like, I'll build it, and then I'll build it, and then I'll automate it, then I'll be out and all that. And I'm just like, here I am, still 12 years later, and still CEO and founder, and still going through like metamorphosis within my business. But one of those ones I can't believe I'm still talking about this thing where people start on Jing, and I've got them for that moment, and I'm like, hey, try take a little bit more, try approach it from this angle, try this because it'll help you comply, and take it for 2 weeks straight or 3 weeks straight, coming up with the terminology of where you like activate. I don't know why I ever called it activate the placebo. It doesn't make sense, but that's just how I felt it. Like you activate something that's the Shen within you will never, like that. Those are those pinnacle moments. I've got people and like, as you guys do, as like lots of people do, it's this mass collaboration and fleshing out that first moment when people come into your ecosystem. I've just taken it for granted that I just stay in the deep content. As you can see, I go to conversations and talk about pre-heavenly chi. It's the last thing I should be talking about on a podcast like this. I should be talking about, if you're exhausted, Jing herbs, we're all burning the candle at both ends, and you guys, you know what it's like having families, and it's really hard, and Jing herbs are the ones that you take. Like that's what I should, and that's my metamorphosis is I'm learning, and I am heading back to tracking, because it's the thing I actually like karmically have to do if I'm going to ever complete with Superfeast, because I am the one that birthed it. I still am the chief custodian. I own 100%. So unless I give it the resources that it needs in order to, undergo its evolutionary, its manifestation into its evolutionary purpose, which is to dramatically lower degeneration and disease, activating superhumans and allowing people to enter into the realms of elderhood. That's where it is going. That's everything that it does comes from that, from that evolutionary purpose.
Yeah.
That was born through my source idea, which was much messier than that statement, but nonetheless, they're connected. And so what I'm needing to do is go and look and really analyze when I have people in that pivotal moment when they're ready to take Jing, whether for a symptom and they're expecting it to give them something. The fact that someone like that is going, it did nothing, it probably did do a lot, and it was there to give them energy. And I have in the past gone, Jesus, give me a break. Like, what else are you expecting? And I'm like, I know what you're expecting. You are actually seeing people go through these mass transformations. And that comes down, that's where departments come in real handy. I metaphor it in like my departments in permaculture to keep myself interested. So different like aspects of a permaculture process. But when, that when you produce everything, whether it's people that come and stay on the permaculture farm or people that are working in the permaculture farm, but especially people that take the produce, for me, I am now tracking how well I've set up that beginning phase, because we're about to explode again. I can feel it. And I need to be really aware that I'm about to have a lot of middle American people who are like that going, yeah, I want my jing, and I say, didn't do nothing, and I really need to go back into the history of what conditions were set up to make it, because people will get more energy, and for some people that's all they want. But some people, the ones you'd never expect, like you'd never expect them to get this, they're like, and these are the good, what I was saying is like how I track it. I need to, in that delivery, we need to track what people are coming back and telling us about their experiences, and seeing a dramatic increase of that awesome feedback, and likewise the feedback when it wasn't effective, and really not just being like, that's nice, but that's my like KPI, and I've got drivers that lead me to like getting that, and that's mine at the moment.
But I think there's also like always going to be people who are like, it didn't work because they're really just not ready to take that full growth path. And
yeah, I mean,
I'm sure if they came back another time,
and
it would just be like so I mean, it's not, by the way, I wasn't like, your product's shit. It doesn't work.
I definitely know what you're saying. I mean, you're
like,
in a nuance,
like,
which I enjoy.
Yeah, it's like, well, because I would say like 99% of the people in our community, and then we know take Superfeast, obsessed with it, love it, couldn't live without it. But I was just trying to talk to the people who expect everything to change for them in a hot minute, like everything. Like people expect to, have everything just kind of done for them, or like same as birth, you walk into the hospital and you like expect to just have this thing, and there's no self accountability or responsibility.
That's
kind of where I was going. I don't actually.
No, it's a good question. It's a good point, because that's often where, if you don't have, let's just call it like a brand voice, if you don't have a brand voice fleshed out. So if you go through my brand voice and how I set it up to begin with, and how Tani came and infused in it, and then other people who have come into our customer service and marketing team, since then, a part of what we do is acknowledging we're going to have people come in and they're going to be expecting the world, and they're not going to be able to get it. And that's why we have like a real high like coaching style, and we like in our communication. So we don't do like we're very good at leading people to where they need to be, and so they're being a sale from that. But we coach people to what they're really doing. So we'll deflect. All our customer service is like going, don't give this to us. This is we're looking for that place in you, that what you're actually like, what do you really want here? Like, what's your real intention here? Like, what's really important? What's going to make you feel like this was a really successful purchase for you? And then we can tell them whether that's a realistic expectation or not realistic. And I think that's missing in a lot of business at the moment, where yes, some of my like, maybe not at the moment, but in the soon, like my real stretchy, like lead, like market penetrating ads aren't going to have a coaching element in them just yet, because it's about going and finding those bright lights in those communities that we haven't reached yet to see if they're up for something like this. But once you start getting closer to the purchase, the languaging really starts being like, going, I'm overhauling the quiz even at the moment to really like breathe like a whole lot of new life into it. We had someone come in with the quiz and try and make it all sales driven and be like, no, that's a stupid way to do it. You need to do this, and make it really easy for them to make a purchase. But I'm like, yeah, but you don't get what that does for that stage. When people buy it, they've been hoodwinked and manipulated into purchasing it. They weren't connected to their intention. We didn't. And so you need to, yes, maybe when I did it, it was really complex, and I need help putting it into like something that's e-commerce friendly and friendly for people who are like, like, I don't know, Jane with 4 kids, and she's living in French's Forest.
Jane.
And no, French's Forest is where you don't live in French's Forest. Yeah, you live 2 minutes away from me, so you're cool.
Yeah.
It must be me then.
With the in crowd.
And so that, I think, is where people go wrong, especially when founders try and get out of businesses too quick. and you've lost, like, how did you talk to people in the beginning? And everyone's like, well, we can't replicate you. And it's like, no one's fucking trying to tell you to replicate me or any other founder. But I didn't do anything. I didn't reinvent the wheel. I had very simple, I happened to have been taught coaching like techniques and just happened to really care, and also happened to have a chip on my shoulder about sales. And I felt so guilty taking people's money that I would bleed, unnecessarily. But it happened to have some gold in it, silver lining with a seam of gold on that. And I'm like, oh, I really cared. That I didn't realize what I cared was developing that trust out of fear of being judged, maybe a little bit, but it did cultivate trust. And then now that I'm over all that shit, I'm like, I've got the exact same values. That's probably the thing that businesses need to do. And you're right, there's a lot of it out there, and there's an increasing amount of it. And there's something you guys would be going, what are you talking about? Like, these herbs are amazing. Do you understand, like, they're connected to a 5,000-year-old lineage?
You've taken like a lot of my money, by the way.
Yeah.
This is on a smoke screen. Yeah,
Like, actually, like, if I think about it, like several years, like, yeah, I mean, pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually needed. I spent years needing to justify that in my head, and not that like I'm feeling guilty or anything like that, but it's
Here's
another.
all your money
Good.
back.
Actually, can I have my money back? I really enjoyed the product, but
Well, I'm not an idiot.
Yeah.
But and you actually, because this is the other thing, if you do feel that, yes, oh, Mason, don't listen to don't listen to that voice in your head. Like, you have done incredible stuff, and I've given you all this essence in your kidneys. This is the hard thing about tonic herbalism when it's cultivation, is you don't know what's been prevented. And so it's actually hard to quantify, like, the impact that I want to have is, I actually want to contribute even to like the economy and have like less strain on like Medicare and stuff like that, like that's where I'm at, but it's hard to quantify. And I'm starting to actually get to the point where long term, I think I'm going to be able to actually start getting and studying the percentage of our customers and people that have been on Superfeast for a certain amount of years and looking at all their...
Well, I've never been to the doctor and my kids haven't. So, I mean, I guess you're there. I guess you're taking the pressure off the Australian healthcare system.
And like, I mean, in all honesty, it's hard to like... You have to reconcile, because when people tell me that, I don't feel uncomfortable now, but I used to feel really uncomfortable and I had to go and reconcile that. And then that's what you feel like, what we call tension integrity in the business. So we tension-led business. And being a tension-led business, what you're feeling is not the tension in a bad way. You're feeling the gap between where you are and what's possible. And so what's possible is having something that if I was going to scale this business heavily and be able to communicate the impact that everyone's having. See, I know the impact I'm having, but I realize there's a tension. If I have a team, if I scale quickly to a team of 40, 50 and 60, they don't have the context. How do I quantify the impact that they're having in the world, rather than me just having to constantly be like, hey, everyone, let's get excited by all the organs we've cultivated.
So, Mason, if we wanted to go back down to our roots and actually apply this to our lives, because
We'll go back to basics. Like.
Yeah. So something that I loved about Taoism, and we kind of did it a backwards way, because me and Togga had a big relationship, and then
That's a Jungian term, right?
Yeah, 100%. Very intellectual these days. And we started off very conventionally, went to a couples therapist and didn't work. And then we were like, well, what do we love doing? Sex is great, and went down the Tantra lines. And that's where like we did heaps of research, actually, because one, it interested us, two, it was fun. And it brought us back together. And then it was when we were going down that, like, learning about sex, and then what actual intimacy is, and then how that can be cultivated, and how we can use our intimacy to enhance our lives and all of this stuff. That's actually when we found Taoism, and then started seeing these herbs, and found your site actually, and you were talking about all these things that also, it was cultivating energy, and it was cultivating sex drive and libido, and you brought that from that one aspect that we were looking at, and then like integrating it into our lives for the bigger picture. And yeah, so I guess my question is, while I just blow smoke up your ass,
My ass is open and receiving.
good to know.
That's going to be our reel, by the way.
My ass is open and receiving. Yes.
Name of the podcast.
Yes. Mason Taylor, his ass is open and receiving.
You wanted us to tap into your market. Here we go.
So,
Sorry, babe.
apologies, everyone. Yeah, how would someone who is trying to integrate, so they know about herbs. I mean, a lot of our listeners would. They'd be tapped into that market already. And we are introducing a lot of themes of like sexual essence and bringing that into your relationship and having that improve your relationship, and then you as a parent and as a human in general. How would someone who's trying to integrate those bring it all together? And I guess I'd love to go into just cultivating that life force.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different phases, you know, like I think the easiest one is tonic herbalism is really accessible. Tonic herbs, like the medicinal mushrooms and all the other herbs that fall under the superior herb category, they're the ones that they're going to have a lot of benefit. There's a lot of upside, and it's very hard to damage the body with them because they're so gentle. So it's just nice to remember you've got a bit of license, and everyone listening to remember, like, if you can just always start slow and go as high as you need, and you can always drop it and then go up. The other one then is when you start low. The other one is to remind people that through this, like, you know, beginning phase, which we want you to have an onboarding phase in a sense where like you discover the magic. And so for some people who are go-getters, you need to remember that you start really high. Other people are going to be doing like what I did. I just started on tablespoons, and that was a really beautiful experience for me because that got me feeling things within the constitution of my immune system and my kidney system, which was just completely transformed the entire trajectory of my life. So, but in both of those, you need people who are like low starters, you need to be willing to go up and experience what it's like to go up. And people who are like all or nothing and in the deep end people like me, you need to be willing to go down and feel the subtlety, because sometimes, so I'll just stay there. You know, you need to be able to sometimes feel the subtlety of where the mushrooms stop and your will begins, right?
Yeah.
So the easiest thing is to start with a mushroom formula. Like Mason's mushrooms is like, I'd just say, just take the thinking out of it. If you're new to this, just get onto the mushrooms first. Get onto Mason's mushrooms, easiest, you know, unless you've got ideas, there's something you specifically want, then follow that thread. But that's what, in that beginning stage, or if anyone who's like coming back round and going, oh, you know, I tried to dip my toe into this before and I didn't really like stay committed. You're going to have to stay committed. Like, because you take the mushrooms, you're going to get immediate effects within your natural killer cells, and what, you know, general white blood cell count is going to immediately be impacted. You're going to have a greater capacity to regulate your nervous system in that moment, and you'll feel like, oh, that's cool. But that's like talking to Taoism. That's like a quickie. That's like a clitoral orgasm, you know? No, that's like that's like just like cheaply blowing your load with someone that you don't love. To bring it back to Taoist sexuality, I'm sure you in the research, you know what I'm talking about there. I don't know if that has context for the listener. Maybe I should just drop that and be like,
back to the smoke.
That's
blowing.
like, you know, that's like a tip-top white bread kind of like fortified iron versus like, so it's good because you'll feel something, and some people are like, oh my God, I felt that immediately. Like, good, keep going. If you keep it up for like a jar of Mason's mushrooms and you take enough, and like you're not taking a small amount, what you'll start clicking onto is your body will then start regulating itself with support from the herbs. That's a really keen distinction where consistency is everything. Once you click into that place where you've felt that and you're like, oh, these herbs aren't anything to sneeze at, they're actually, and you feel a little bit of connection and reverence, then you're good. Then you start cracking into like, all right, now I'm going to go over here. I'll take the Jing herbs and take the Chi herbs, or take some you're kind of free reign.
So hang on, are you saying that like if you started taking a tablespoon and you're like, oh my God, like my life is transforming before my eyes. Yeah. That you can eventually like taper back down and your body's just like, this is me now.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's the thing. Like for some people, they actually start getting fearful that if they stop taking, say, even just like a heap teaspoon of Jing, they get the feeling that I've kind of finished with that phase, but they're really scared that if they stop taking it, that they're
gonna
not
feel
going to have
shit again.
energy again.
Yeah.
And so that's a really important process that it was actually one of the first customer service processes that I put in place, completely counterintuitive. This is why our business is weird. We have such good retention, but we're so bad at basic business principles sometimes of like generating leads and things like that. And it's because people come into our business at times and they're like, how are you still operating and how are you healthy? And I'm like, it's because we flesh out things like that. Most people won't have a conversation around that. And in the lineage of the herbs, there's actual, like there's chapters about that process where you need to be able to go through the metamorphosis of realizing the Jing herbs, of course, they're doing something to your body. They're chemically doing something to your body and energetically doing something to your body. If you don't take them, they won't be doing those chemical things. That's like, but then there is the other fact that these are the tonic herbs and the superior herbs that get you in perception of your Jing. So what you do is you do cultivate your kidney and your liver's capacity with Jing herbs, for example, to regulate themselves and get into a state of harmonious transformation of qi versus disharmonious transformation of qi between yin and yang. And when people do lower, rather than just getting resentful toward the fact that they need to take this drug every single day, that's what happens. People are like, oh, screw it. And they just go, I'm going to start something else. And then they replace their Jing addiction with like
Coffee.
HIT. Or like, they'll go like, now it's F45 that gives me the energy and I can't live without it. As soon as it can't live without it, goes ding, ding, ding. So then that's like why we talk about like, it's really important that you lower it and find like a sweet spot. You don't have to stop. Or maybe you're getting the feeling that it's actually time to move on from Jing herbs and start going to the next treasure that's created after the Jing, which is the qi. Go and experience what happens now when you get your qi. And that's hard because you just got comfortable in one place and you have energy and you're like, oh, I've got to discover a new thing about myself. And so it's a really important aspect of tonic herbalism. So yeah, I haven't talked about it in a while. So it's cool thanks for bringing that up.
No worries. That's kind of what I was trying to get out before about the taking X equals like, it's like a thing that you have to, it's like a bit of a journey. It's not like you're going to just do it and then everything's fucking awesome forever. It's like there's a bit of a, anyway, we got
discovery,
there. We got
a discovery and an initiation process. And then, I definitely cycle through herbs. Like I've gone through, like reishi would be my go-to. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm feeling pretty chill. Bring on lion's mane and like switch it up.
Well, I have wondered this because like talking about like more psychedelics and things like that, it's my understanding that it's not a good idea to like microdose every day for like a year or something or half a year. Like, is it a similar thing with taking like a tablespoon of Jing? Like, should you not do that every day?
It depends on how like, I don't know, sick you are, or depends on how like if you're some people, their constitution or their psyche, or they're one of the channels of qi has been so damaged that we're not in that conversation yet. And it's kind of likewise, like for me, it's a terrible idea to think about having a microdosing of psychedelics daily. For my mum, who's in a wheelchair and has got a traumatic brain injury and is like learning to overcome incredible. So like, and so that's
some nuance there.
Well, there's a lot of grey, but it is black and white, where if you're feeling like the whole point of you taking these things isn't to survive a period of like integration or a period of challenge, like they're there to really be like strong allies, not to be relied upon, but don't feel bad about relying on Jing or Shaga. Like I definitely have. And like I've just come through a huge period and I was actually at the point where I had been like, no, I'm like so in cultivation land. I don't want to, like, I stopped herbs for a while, being like, Mason, you've been proud here. Like you need this. You actually, and I got to go back recently and it was like really difficult, like 3 months in the business not difficult, just a big transition I hadn't experienced before, like going across a desert when you're used to living in rainforest, And so I was like, and I just went back. My Shaga is my herb. Like that is like the one that I have like the deepest connection with, who knows how to like really imbue power in me when I can't bring it to myself, like in certain areas. well, that's not true. I have to be bringing it to myself, but can really blow some smoke up my ass. And so I was like, and so there wasn't anything too romantic. It was analytical. It was like, Mason, go to Chaga. And I'd kind of like hadn't been there for a long time because I'd been cruising for so long in my herbal practice, which is a nice place to be, where you're just like, oh, intuitively take this and that. And it doesn't matter if you have a break. And then at some point you'll be like, oh, I can really feel like my yang jing and my sexuality isn't like, it's good, but it's not there. I'm going to take some deer antler and have some fun with it. But there's nothing on the line. And then there's when shit's on the line. And so you never know when people are entering into their tonic herbal practice. Some people, there's nothing on the line at the moment.
Yeah.
Some people are already on the path and it's just they're in a cruise period. Some people are in a cruise period and just like have everything handed to them on a platter their entire lives and start getting onto these tonic herbs and qigong and cultivating and realize that they'd been ignoring subconsciously all the shit that they need to do, but they just luxuriously cushion themselves from it. Some people find the herbs when they're like, like the testimonial today, I was just looking at, we call them awesome feedback, but this guy's just like, oh, it's like my wife has dementia and I know there's no cure, but she's just going down and I'm just like, I don't know what to do. And he just trawled for the internet for lion's mane and was just like, oh God, I don't know which one do I pick. And then found us at least, talking about the lion's mane the way we talk about with no claims, but just like the way we grow it and stuff like that. And he was like, oh, good, whatever. Like, oh, just trust it. And then wrote back to us and was just like, look, I just don't know if it's the lion's mane or whatever, but my God, like there's something, and for me, watching my wife not suffer that heavily has been like so amazing. So thank you like so much for that. And so there's like that 3-pronged, like how people are going in. If you're cruising, that's the time. Absolutely. I've gone 3 months sometimes without taking them and been like, oh shit, and if I had, it's people going, Mason, you want a tonic? It's got this. And I'm like, no, I don't care. Like whatever. I'll just drink whatever. Yeah.
Interesting. So do you feel like when we're looking, like let's say we're at the shop and there's like a couple of shelves of Superfeast and we're like, ooh, what are we going to have? Do you feel like it's an intuitive thing or like definitely read the label and be like, that's what I need or want?
Yeah. I mean, I think it probably comes back to the three-prong approach, and which I'm fleshing out now, which is really useful for me.
Glad to be of service.
Yeah, great, and that's why I do podcasts, because this is and talks, because this is always where I do my connection making, which is always fun. If you're in an intellectual place, you're intellectual because you're either getting into this for the first time and you're thinking your way to what to do, and if you don't have, but there's nothing like strong symptomology or anything like that, just go Mason's mushrooms and Jing. It's just the easiest low-hanging fruit. Or again, as you said, if you're reading through and I've heard of lion's mane, yeah, great. Go. I've heard of reishi, yeah, good. That's an entry. Or if you're reading through and you see, it's good to read, see if your soul's looking for anything. I just started reading Stephen Buhner's book that he got released after he died. Stephen Harold Buhner, do you know him? The earth poet and herbalist.
No.
Secret Teachings of Plants. He's been like one of the people that's like really impacted my lives, and he's got a book that just came out called Becoming Vegetalista. So it's like the path to becoming like a really like going deep in the herbal path and being with the plants. And just like I read the intro and I was like, oh, I can't right now, because I've read his books and it's like completely transformed me so much. I was like, I need to be like ignorant to whatever's in this book for like another 4 months. That's when I finish this next block of projects at Superfeast. But in the beginning, he was like, for those of you that haven't read my other books, just so you know, like, don't stumble in here. And sometimes what I feel like saying about Superfeast, not the don't stumble in here, but be aware of what your soul's looking for. And I was really, he goes like, maybe your soul's looking for something in this book. Maybe it wants to read all of it and then to draw some kind of like distinction out of it. So I don't know, like in terms of when people come to Superfeast, it's like, if you just want the easiest path, bang, bang, Mason's mushrooms, Jing, get it over and done with. For other people listening to this podcast, you might not know what you're looking for, but if there might be something your soul's looking for, be open for that. And that's when you do read. And just with that angle, you might find the Shen herbs, which not many people find, and it doesn't move that much because it's not sexy, but like Shen, that, cultivating the spirit and virtue and happiness and meditative stillness.
I feel like Shen was I felt the most with Shen in my
awesome
postpartum time when I had my last baby and I had 3 other kids, and I was just like, fuck, like I'm not on the ground. I'm like, feel like I'm a ragey mess at the moment. And as soon as I started taking Shen like religiously, I was like, oh my God, I don't remember the last time I've been like a bit ragey or a bit like angry or a bit
So
like,
happy for you. Oh, so good.
yeah.
Shen is amazing. So that someone, you know, like, but that's hard to get to because you've got a strong constitution or a strong enough physical constitution. You do practices, you're aware of your lifestyle and the flow of chi. And sometimes it's just the regulation of our heart fire to be able to just literally turn the fire down when it's getting too hot so that it's comfortable to live in our body. That's what the Shen is. It's regulation of the fire so that our spirit is either, it's not too hot, it's not too cold. It's like a half.
Probably actually need some more Shen. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, you better get them on the way home.
And that is like,
The
it's
rage.
like, yeah, it's like calm mind, you know, like settled spirit, you know, like having a bit of those pause moments with emotions. That's what the heart is. And then that's where the war is won and lost.
I think that's where parents probably are looking for the most.
I kind of don't talk about Shen that much because it's just, it lands with the right people. I'm glad you're bringing it up because it gives me an excuse. But it's such a hard sell just because so many people are like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like energy, immunity, chi they can get. Like they can understand like mobility, like mobilizing the body and having vitality. But when you're like, okay, so what does this Shen do? Like,
Why do I want to be calm and like docile?
well, it's also hard to associate that with a herb.
Yeah.
Not for us, but like, you know, like it's, and I get it, you know, to associate like happiness, not just like with St. John's wort where it's like a symptom based thing, you know, it's like the cultivation of happiness with herbs. Like, and no, you don't even have to be meditating. You can do it just with the Shen.
Yeah.
So maybe your soul's looking for that. Maybe someone's like, oh God, that sounds good. Oh, I just want all of them. You know, that's like, and that's when you go, curb it, 2 max, maybe 3. Like maybe 3 if you can handle, if you think you're going to take 3 home and you're going to remember, that's for that, that's for that, that's for that. Then go 3, but no more. Like 2. Jing, Masons, if you're someone who's an absolute dive into the deep end frother, go and listen to some podcasts, read some blogs, read what they're about, and then go and just, I know what they'll do. They'll go and buy a kilo of it. That's why I have kilos for the frothers, you know? So go and buy maybe 250 grams, all right.
Frother here.
Yeah.
Previous frother. I don't know. I've definitely just fallen off it a little bit. Not intentionally, I feel like, but not because I don't feel like I need it or anything, but just good reminder. Go grab a kilo. Shen.
Yeah, but you got to respect the distinction of like, that's like how long you're like, when you're kind of onboarding onto the path, it's going to be really dramatically different to when you hit like a stride of your lifestyle. And it's kind of the same with like, you know, talking about like Taoist practices and semen retention. And, you know, when you first get into like, you know, like sexual Taoism and the you know, the semen retention or the jade eggs or whatever it is, it's like Tonic Herbalism, it's like they can dominate your identity in your life for a while, and maybe a few years it can last. And then at some point you're like, I just need to find where this, and it drops off. And hopefully this is what you got to do, is go like, where does this fit in my life now? And, you know, and be like, where's that sweet spot that it doesn't, because I don't want it as a part, because the herbs shouldn't be a part of your identity.
Yeah.
They should just become like an integrated part of your like family culture, which is probably that's the next part.
Yeah. And I do like like once you do find that sweet spot, that's what's like, there's no dogma around it anymore. You don't have to like overthink it. There's not this like, I've got to do this to prove ABC. It's like,
and I have to talk about it all the time.
Yeah. But we'll talk about it because, you know, we've got a code and everything.
Of course, we'll talk about it. I love coming across people though who are just like, you know, they're just like an account. The guy coming and doing our bloody OH&S. We have like regular like OH&S, like he just comes and makes sure that we're up to standards around everything in the warehouse and stuff like that. And he came and he was just like, oh, I've been so excited about this. I love your herbs. And I was like, and I'm like, but this is a guy like, he was still at a frother stage. Okay, the bad example. He was still telling all of his clients because but like, people like in jobs like that are coming and doing like audits of warehouses and like there's lots of people who are like accountants or people who are doing those jobs and just who are not in any kind of position to be like speaking on platforms and stuff like, you know, that. No, and they're just like, they're like, oh yeah, I've been taking them for like 5 years. And and no one knows. They're just like, you know, it's like, oh yeah, no, I take Jing, I take Qi, I take neural nectar, I take the brain herb. They're on like a cultivation. I love coming across people like that who just find the sweet spot.
Yeah, it's nice. I feel like we found it. We definitely went through the frother phase and got all the things, and then fun. Yeah, it is. And it's like when you discover something, it's novel and you go hard, and then just finding a good easy spot where like, and there's also no pressure to take them, and like we do when we feel like it,
but then when you do go through something hardcore, remembering you've got things in your tool, you know, like in your tool belt. That's what's good to remember.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, like when you have kids and you have like for like years and years, I was like, homeopathics are everything. And I like literally packed them in our
belladonna.
suits. Like everything was about homeopathics, like something wrong with homeopath. And then I just got to the point where like I just totally didn't believe in giving my kids absolutely anything. I'm just like, get outside, take your shoes off, you're good. And then every now and again I got real bad, like someone had a hectic earache. I was like, Annika's my
go-to.
Homeopathics. They're up in the top cupboard in the back right there. And like, that'll work. It's like that.
That's the path of integration, eh?
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
It's brilliant. Not, I better go to the doctors. It's like, my homeopathics is stashed in one of these cupboards.
Yeah.
The mushies are there.
Yeah.
It's all they'll be always there.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, I think we're time. We've hit our clock.
Cool.
Thank you, Mason, so much for coming in.
Thank you.
I'm pretty sure we blew a few minds. If we lost any of you listeners, these guys have a podcast where you can listen and learn everything in much more depth. And yeah, I guess if there are some words in there that you're not quite understanding, go there because you'll figure it all out. It's fantastic. Yeah. Mason, where else can our listeners find you?
Yeah, I mean, on the social medias, on Superfeast Instagram's a good one. The TikToks is also going strong. Lots of content there if you just want to get it in your face and in your eyes. You want to jam down your throat. If you have a really
small capacity for information, go to TikTok.
And superfeast.com.au is where you can control your journey if you're in North America and if you're expanding there with your listenership. Superfeast.com is over there in North America for those of you up there.
We got a 6% listener rate in the northern
USA.
Northern,
I
haven't lived there before. USA, of Canada.
I love how onto the analytics you are in the podcast. It's great.
Oh yeah,
could be 7 or 8%. I actually don't know.
I think it's getting higher actually.
Great.
Cool.
Thanks, America.
Those are the places. Superfeast.com.au for all of you in Australia. You'll find.
And your podcast as well. Everything.
Podcast there. Superfeast podcast on all the same place. Probably right where you're listening to this podcast is the best place to find Superfeast podcast.
We'll link it all up.
It's beautiful. Thank you so much again, Mason. Loved having you on.
Thanks.
And
I've got deer antler for you both as well.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I'll give it to Togger like he needs it.
Yeah, but you'd be... God, he's just getting stomped. No, but like I needed it at the moment as well. That was one of the ones that I was like, oh my God, like I need like essence. Like I need kidney as like holding me up. Can
I ask, in pregnancy, because deer antler is a blood builder.
Yeah. It's not just a blood builder. It's a majority, everyone knows is it a yang tonic because it's such a strong sexual tonic, but it's actually a real strong yin jing tonic as well.
Yep.
If you've got your sexual energy circulating, if you can just breathe essentially and have some purpose in life, you will find that it's not as strong of a yang tonic as everyone thinks it is.
Yeah.
It's a blood tonic.
Yep.
It's a qi tonic and it's a really incredible shen tonic. And it's one of the only herbs that actually tonifies and cultivates bone marrow. It's like a herb for longevity. So I have a lot of friends who, because during pregnancy, reishi is the classic herb that we take. Reishi babies is the thing that we talk about in Tonic Herbalism, has been when the babies come out like all connected to spirit, and when your heart's been calm during the pregnancy, the kid can come out with the child's spirit landed, and that's what we call reishi babies. And then the other one is euphomia bark, which is the primary yang Jing tonic, because that's the thing that we use when you get towards the end of, in the second trimester, you take yang tonics like eucombia bark, but then deer antler, if there's like you feel that there's an underdevelopment of the fetus, that's like clinically when it gets used. And sometimes it doesn't have to be clinical. It's not dangerous. It's not like you're going to like double the size of the fetus if you take it and nothing was wrong, but you can take a little bit in the second trimester, see if that's vibing.
Yeah.
Whether your body is needing a little bit of extra yang for that stage of gestation. And then when you get third trimester and a little bit closer to the birth, when you're actually preparing for birth, the yang tonics become very relevant for your preparation and your body's preparation to embody the yang that is going to be necessary to go through that process. So we don't take a lot of yin, like soul yin tonics. We take, in Taoism anyway, it says like, take those yang jing tonics to prepare for the birth.
Yeah.
Because it's very yin time for the body. So it doesn't really need any more of that.
Yep.
Some of my friends, that's the only herb that they take. They've scoffed it like in their like second trimester. You'd want to really listen to your body though, which I know I don't have to tell you, but it's because I know we've got people listening. If you don't feel like you have the capacity to listen to your body, don't try and start taking tonic herbs during your pregnancy.
Yeah. If you haven't worked with them before, probably not the time to start.
Or have an acupuncturist working with you who can actually take your pulse and like work with you to develop like a herbal plan. Like eucombia bark is kind of like fine once you get into third trimester. You know, don't try deer antler if you're really not confident. But
we'll let you know how we go, guys.
Watch this space.
And again, like
7 kilo babies. What up?
Just try a bit. I mean, just try pop a little bit on your finger, and then see what that, because the good thing about having herbs like this is the taste. You connect, the taste connects to your organs straight away, and in the state of perception that you're in, you can almost see whether something is appropriate or not.
You're like, I'm not feeling anything.
No, it tastes very like, I was going to say earthy. You'd hope so, wouldn't you?
Is that sort of like a wet deer a little bit, or is it all right?
Tastes like a wet deer. No, you nailed it. No, it's like I would flavor food with. Like I'd sprinkle that on my rice.
It's actually a nice flavor. That's why it's nice not having additives.
It's kind of like a cacao-y flavor.
It's kind of like it is actually funny. It's like, I don't know, I find it quite salty, like a little bit salty as well, and that's because it's a kidney tonic. But
yum.
Yeah, it's actually yum, considering it's the antler of, they're not killed. You can go look at the videos of me at the deer farms in North China. But it is the antler.
They shed their antlers, everyone. They shed them.
They do shed them. We help them off before the shedding phase, but that's we have a vet going in and doing that just to be. But I mean, how nice to like taste the herb and like I'll let you play around with whether you think that's one's relevant for you.
Yum.
It's yum.
It is yum.
I'm thinking about having some more.
Have some more. I'll get a spoon for you. All right, people, we're going to get out of here.
I'm going to get a few more $100 out of you yet.
Yes, we do have an affiliate code.
We do, and we'll put that in our show notes. Thank you again, Mason, for coming on, and we'll catch everyone soon. Thanks for tuning in to the Road to Wisdom podcast. To join the journey, you can follow us on Instagram at theroadtowisdom.podcast and at www.theroadtowisdompodcast.com. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. We look forward to seeing you next week with more juicy content.